Hi there, welcome back to my channel, and of course welcome back to the space. So today, it's been a while since I've been here, but I'm going to put strings on this baby, on the Schecter. And just a quick recap, we discovered that the body is C&J, and I believe it's mahogany. It's stamped C&J, and I think it's a two-piece body. The neck does not have the skunk stripe that the typical Schecter neck had that came from VanNuys. So it could have been a later neck, but it is 21 frets. It is bird's eye maple like those necks, but it is missing the skunk stripe. The body, it's a C&J, but we're not sure about the neck. I don't know if it's original Schecter or if it was a later ESP neck perhaps. Whatever it is, it's a bird's eye figured maple neck, one piece, 21 fret vintage with the adjustment screw at the bottom, you know, like the old vintage way, the 50s way. So, and it has the amber nut. Then I'm pretty sure this is all original VanNuys hardware, and I've confirmed that these are Schecter Super Rock VanNuys pickups, so that's cool. As far as the wiring goes, I left all that intact, but I did replace the pots because they died on me, and I brought those pots today. These are the original pots, and you can't really see anything. There's nothing special about them. I wanted to see if perhaps they were like the original Schecter ones from VanNuys that I'd read about that had the spot weld on them. And while they do look different from the way these push-pull pots look now, I do believe, and see, you can tell that they're push-pull. And you can feel the turning is not great on them. The new ones feel great. The new ones were CTS, they were CTS pots, push-pull. And I bought them, I say new ones, I got them in probably 2004, 5-ish, around there. But they were new compared to, 1985. So at that point, I upgraded the pots. But these are the originals. But I don't think these are VanNuys. They were just pots that were available in 1985, to build a guitar. So I do think there's some original VanNuys stuff on this, which is really cool because the guitar, like I said, is like a magical guitar that people love. The only other thing, and it's the only guitar I've ever owned that people try to buy from me, and I've got some pretty nice guitars. The only other thing I did through this whole process of taking the neck off and identifying all the parts and finding these old pots and everything is there was an old neck plate guard inside between the neck plate and the wood, and I just took it off just now, just because off camera. I just thought, I don't really want a big piece of rubber like this much rubber on a wood to metal connection. It just seems like it could maybe be a sustain killer on some level. I'm sure it would be subtle and I probably would not be able to hear it, but I decided to remove it and just put it with the rest of the stuff that comes with the original guitar, which is basically the only things left: the original cap, these two pots, and this little thing. Everything else is what it came with originally. I just had to put new pots in it in 2005 because they just stopped working. But they were 500K. So that lets you understand that the goal of this was always 500K. It was never 250K on those pots. They were going for like the super tele, high-powered, high-octane version of a Telecaster. Okay, so I'm kind of sick and tired of setting up guitars right now. I just built a Flying V. It has all kinds of issues with the nut, rake angle, intonation, neck adjustments, back and forth, new bridges, just back and forth with the setup. And I just kind of burned down on it. And these guys were pros that set this up. They did it in Atlanta. I forgot the name of the company. They were super grumpy, but they did a great job. And I don't want to mess it up because it's so right. And this nut looks like it's a little, it might need a little rebuild. Could do it with the baking soda glue trick, but the low E is pretty, the slot's getting pretty low. And I want to keep the original nut in as long as I can, because like I said, this guitar is kind of retired just because of the sentimental connection to me, even though I would like it to sound great for recording, and I would definitely play a show with it, but I could picture not wanting to take it if I got a run of shows. I mean, I'd take it out for something like that, just, you know, to risk, or if I were to fly somewhere, I definitely wouldn't be, this wouldn't be the one I would take, you know, kind of hit that status. So anyway, I'm going to put the strings on. And you might want to watch, because if you've never strung up a guitar with the vintage tuning pegs, it's something to learn how to do. Just, I don't know, seems like it could be helpful. Let me see if I can reposition the camera a little bit just so you can see what I'm doing better. Let me see here. I'll just kind of make this go wider, or maybe tilt it, maybe go back with it a little bit. Set it back here and see if you can see. Yeah, I think that's going to be a little better, because you'll be able to see how I go into this, and I'll come up with it and make it easy to see what I'm doing. Hopefully that'll help. Okay, so I'm going with these. They're DR. I think they're good strings. They're not the ones I usually choose. I am using the NYXLs lately, 11 gauge. I was using 1152, but now I've gone back to the 1146, I believe it is. So, just because I think it's 11, I can't remember what it is, but it's the normal 11 gauge, the first 11 gauge, not the one with the heavy top strings, because it seemed like it was going to cause more problems with the nut on that Flying V, so I went with those. And on this one, I don't want to mess with the setup. I don't want to have to re-intonate or lift the string height, so I'm just going to put the 10s on. And like I say, I don't play it that much, and my son likes 10s better, and he plays it, so I'll put 10s on. Third and sixth. Sixth string is the big boy. There we are. And I'll leave this third string over here with this third envelope. So here we are. We got the low E string. I'm going to go from the bottom. So I'm coming back here. You know where the hole is. I'm going to go in, come through, and I'm going to make sure I got it all the way through and it's, you know, picking up the guitar. I'm going to bring it across, and on this one, I'm going to go up. I'm going to measure the string up two tuning pegs on the E. So we're going to go to the E and then go to the first tuning peg in this one, and I measured it to about right here. And then I'm going to take my little handy tool here and clip the string right there. So now you pre-clip it. Now you've got the pre-clipped string, you bring it up. Yeah, that's just about right. Now, I'm going to kind of turn it to the side, so like I wound it a little bit to the side. And I'm going to bring the string up carefully, not like that, I just did it. Carefully, I'm going to go straight into the hole. So you just go straight down into the hole. I'm going to push it down to the fretboard and then put it in the nut. And then hold it down here, because you want it to go towards the bottom. You want it to wind down towards the bottom. Helps with tuning stability. So I'm going to just kind of hold it down here and let it kind of bring it through. I'm holding, you know, I'm just kind of pushing it down and just guiding the string around the post, trying to keep it down low. And actually what you should do is use this little end here. You can hook it onto the thing, and it makes for a not smoother, faster wind. I mean, it's pretty quick once you get that thing on there. So you really want to hold the string down over the nut and push it down onto the fretboard or the neck. I mean, push it down onto the neck as you're turning it up. So we got our first string on. Pretty easy, huh? What's nice about vintage tuners is they're very simple. It's kind of like a locking tuner. You just sort of put it in, turn it, and you're done. Okay, so we got our first one on. Now we need our fifth string. We've got our third right here, but we need our fifth string. So let me find the fifth. Here's our second and fifth. All the string companies have these individual sort of odd ways of doing this. Like NYXLs just sort of winds theirs all up around each other. These guys combine strings. I think I like Ernie Ball's method best, where you have the individual strings just in their own envelopes, lacks, no confusion. They're not wound up together. I don't really like the strings being together. Okay, so this is the 5th string, our A string. Once again, I'm going from the back, bring it up and through, like so. And I'm going to go up 1, 1, 2. So I'm measuring up 2 on this one as well. This is the A string, the 2nd or the 5th string. If our low E is 6th, our A is 5th. So now I snipped it off at the end. I'm going to pull it up here to the nut, put it in the hole, press it down, put our little string turner thing on, and away we go. And you really want to just kind of hold it down there while you're doing it so it stays tight to the post and low. I'm going to push it down and keep that rake angle down. Good. That sounds like about an A. So now we got these 2 strings on. Looking good. Looking really nice. Okay. Now, the next string. That's going to be our 3rd string. And our 3rd string is this one here. No, I'm sorry. We need our 4th string. I am terrible at this. 1st and 4th string. Okay. And there's our 1st string. I'll put that one with the envelope. There. Okay, now we have our 4th string and the D string. Now the D string is the first one where we add a little length. If I remember correctly, the way I've seen people do this. Yeah, we kind of go to, let's see, D. I'm gonna go towards the end of the fretboard with this one on the D string. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the end of the fretboard. Just a little more room, a little more string on the end of that one. That will help tuning stability on that as well. Okay, so once again, you see how we're doing this. I'm going into the hole, straight down, press it down. And I was trying to think of all the cool stuff I did with this guitar. This guitar was the main guitar that I got, like I said, all the record deal offers and major record deals and publishing deals. Got publishing offers while playing and writing songs on this guitar. And this was the time period that we were signed to a management company that was run by Jackyl. It was Jesse James Dupree, the singer for Jackyl's management company. He had a couple of different bands that he would work with, and we were one of them. And his goal was to, find acts, get them sort of like up and running, produce a record for them, take them to, he wanted to do like production deals and stuff like that and take acts to the labels. And so he was just kind of bringing us along. They'd done this with several bands, and he's still doing it. He's still got, I think he has some kind of label nowadays that he has, and all kinds of acts. Like, even though he makes the music that he makes, the hard kind of like Southern rock, he likes all kinds of different music and has an ear for lots of different styles. So after we signed with him, we got to do some really cool stuff. For starters, we got to go play shows with Jackyl. We would do a couple dates with them, throughout the South. I think the first one was in Hickory, North Carolina. Hickory, North Carolina, yeah. And so we would do these one-off shows with them, and their fans really hated us. So people would throw like beer and stuff at this guitar. I would be up there playing, and get splashed with beer and few bras and panties, but mainly it was like beer and like wooden stuff. And one time our drummer threw a drumstick and they threw it back and it hit me instead of him. So that kind of thing. But mainly just getting drenched with beer, probably spit. I don't know. But you don't even look because you're just playing and you're trying to go over as an act. And they also did all this other crazy stuff. I want to tell these stories when I have a chance with some of the other band members. I'll have Mark Skinner, and he used to play this guitar a lot. That's another great guitar player who played this guitar. He was the best guitar player to ever play this guitar as far as like just straight up artistic skill and ability with an instrument. He kind of reminds me of Tim Pierce in the sense that he can like cover so much ground, like play any kind of pop song. Any song he hears, he immediately knows what's going on and where it was played, the correct place it was played on the neck. He just always plays everything exactly right. And he loved this guitar and played this guitar on the record that we recorded with Jesse. We actually made an album with Jesse using this guitar. I played a lot of rhythm tracks on it, but I didn't play a ton of guitar on that record. Mark played most of it because there was no reason for me to. The only reason I would ever play guitar on those records is because I would be there to add a different element on the rhythm. I wasn't a good enough player to really be recording, and so he would play most of it, and he used this guitar a lot because he really loved it too. So that was another like great player that loved the guitar and wanted to play it. But we did all kinds of neat stuff because of our Jackyl affiliation, because we were on that management company and they were representing us. It was kind of weird in the music business because we were two different genres of music somewhat. We were a rock band too, but we were part of the new kind of thing that was happening at the time, early 90s. And they were part of the old 70s kind of model that was sort of coming to a close as this new sort of 90s model that was based on 80s college rock finally sort of matured enough and had enough of a moment where the young kids, sort of pushed it into the mainstream. But we got to do a lot of cool stuff. Like I remember one of the neatest things was getting to go to ZZ Top shows because we were touring with them. One of the times I got to see ZZ Top because we went to play a show at Jackyl. Oh, actually, because we were at home. We came home from playing some shows, and they were in Atlanta playing at the Omni with ZZ Top. So they said, why don't you guys just come and hang out? And you'll get to meet ZZ Top. And I wasn't like super excited about it because I actually went to high school, the same high school that some of the ZZ Top guys went to, Bel Air High School. And the rumor was that they'd gotten kicked out for like dealing weed. I don't know if that's true or not. And it's ridiculous to kick people out of school for dealing weed anyway, but whatever. But anyway, you probably shouldn't deal weed at school or whatever, but we now know that weed is, nothing to be that worried about it or whatever. But at the time, they were like rock and roll kids or whatever, they got kicked out of school. But anyway, I grew up in a time period where there was like a lot of lines of delineation, like what kind of music you would listen to. It sort of identified the type of person you were. And when I got to that high school, there was a lot of punk rock, a lot of exciting, like new music that people were like super excited about. And it was getting me excited about it. And it was just like a time, like I was at the age of discovery, trying to find music that was from my time. And so ZZ Top was sort of a little bit like an old, something left over from the 70s, early 80s. And I was looking for stuff that was, sounded more now. So I did not have the level of appreciation for ZZ Top that I should have at that point. Now I do. Now I think they're one of the, greatest American bands. Their records sound amazing. And, they're just, terrific. They're a terrific live band and they're pleasant and fun. It's like the kind of band you can get into and you don't get bummed out by hearing all these stories about how they're jerks or whatever, like really nice people. And they are very nice people. I got to meet them, in passing or be in the same room with them. And they ran a really good operation. It was really cool. It was like the ZZ Top thing seemed pleasant. And a lot of times it doesn't. Like I've been on the periphery of other big showbiz type things like that, and it's not usually like that nice vibe that they had. So we went to the Omni, we went backstage there. And there was a big eye opener because those big shows like that, you start realizing that those bands that play those types of shows over and over, night after night, they kind of live in like a weird tunnel, because you go in the backstage of the Omni and it's like you pull into this thing and it's this big, massive sort of industrial space. It's underneath the building. It's like a big basement. There's no windows in there. It's just a series of like carpeted rooms and leading to the backstage area. And so we walked back there and the ZZ Top guys were just freely walking around, talking to people. There'd be little Jackyl groups and ZZ Top groups and people mingling and talking to each other. And I got to see, all the ZZ Top guys interacting and the ZZ Top dancer girls. Everybody was like super nice, and it had a very friendly atmosphere to it. It wasn't like a negative like drag scene like big rock and roll can be sometimes. Honestly, to be honest with you, the inner workings, it's not always, super fun. It can be a real drag. It can be a grind, like a real major grind, daily grind, and not very, fun to be stuck in that little world of arena to arena. You don't get to see the sights. You're just kind of stuck in that little tunnel world. But anyway, that was one of the times I was in Atlanta, and that time I got to see them milling around. They came between set breaks. They would come back there and hang around and stuff. And at one point, I realized that I saw the ZZ Top dancers running out of a door. They kept using this door, and I was like, I wonder what's behind that door. I opened it up, and it was literally the stage, and you could walk right to the backstage. And so I walked as far as I could without the security guys kind of saw me and made like a gesture, like don't come any further. So I actually took a few steps back and realized I was on stage. There's Billy Gibbons, and he was playing the solo to Rough Boy, and it sounded just incredible, and it really just caught my ear. And now I'm a massive fan, and I was in the '80s too, but I wasn't like completely obsessed with him. And at some point, we were playing some shows with Jackyl, and we ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was a Sunday night, and we weren't going to play that night. We were playing shows with them in clubs and theaters, and then they would pick up a date with ZZ Top, and so they were going to go play whatever the Normo Dome is in Nashville. I forgot the name of it, but that's where we went. So we drove to the place, and we were backstage, and we immediately got near this tour bus and all that, and because we were with Jackyl, we went right in and all that. Before we got right in, I was looking out the tour bus window, and I saw a kid run up. He was a young guy, probably my age. Like I was like 25 back then. And so he comes running up, and he's like racing around the bus, like just running as fast as he could. And I was trying to figure out what it was he was doing. He looked frantic, and he was trying to find ZZ Top members, probably looking for Billy Gibbons or Dusty or whatever to, have him sign his album. And he had a copy of, Tres Hombres, and I saw the record in his hand, and I saw the passion in his eyes, and I was like, wow, this band has that thing, where people go crazy and really get heavy on it. And so I remembered that image, the look in that guy's eye. Anybody that'll go somewhere and look like that, they're in a state of passion and excitement and commitment for something they love. That has an effect on you. And I realized then that they were a great band. They have that level of fandom, that level of obsession directed towards them because their music, is so powerful. So there was some amazing moments like that, seeing things like that, getting to be around ZZ Top, getting to see the effect that these people have on the crowds that come and see them. It's almost like a religious experience. So, and this guitar was part of that. That's why it's so special for me, because this is the guitar I was playing during this. I basically only played this guitar. I just thought of another cool story that happened with this guitar. We were in Dayton, Ohio. I don't remember the name of the club. I could find out because I think most of this stuff is documented. I have some of the old tour sheets and stuff, and our itineraries and stuff like that. But we played this little club. It was just in a strip mall, and this was with Jesse's solo band called Marcia Clark. So you'd really have to know your Jackyl trivia here to understand what was going on. Jesse had a solo band at the time that was called Marcia Clark, like the L.A. County defender for O.J. Simpson's trial. That's who she was. The name was named after her, but it was spelled with a K instead of a C. Marcia Clark, and it had two members from Mother's Finest, or three members from Mother's Finest, and I'm blanking on everybody's names. The bass player was named Wizard, the drummer was Dion, and the guitar player was a longtime friend of. His name was John. John. I forgot his name, but he was a songwriter. He wrote songs with Jesse, and was in an early version of Jackyl, I believe, and another version of some of Jesse's bands. So he'd been around forever and had been a collaborator with Jesse. But this was a separate band that it was basically Mother's Finest with Jesse as the singer. And it was fantastic. They were incredible players. The bass player was unbelievable. John's a great guitar player. The drummer was fun. We had a great time. We did a tour with them. We did like probably 12 dates with them up and down from Atlanta to Detroit was the last show. And on that tour, so I'm in Ohio. And as I said, we're touring with Jackyl. We're on a management company with Jackyl. Jesse's, our collaborator. He's like we're all in it together. We have sort of the same vision about what we're trying to achieve. Not always musically. He had his own interests. We had ours, but we had a similar kind of idea about what we were trying to pull off, with rock music. And but we kind of represented the type of band that had messed up bands like Jackyl, because at that point, any band that was associated with, I hate to say hair metal, because I know that's not the title that people like to use for that type of music. It's like the late 80s, what was left of like the glam metal, Sunset Strip type of movement. And what Jesse was doing was a southern version of it anyway. He wasn't an LA guy. He was a Kennesaw guy. So he had his own kind of thing going. It's like he was like a redneck punk, that was his thing. And he had the chainsaw and he had the chickens and all of the southern affectation that was really for real. Like what you see with Jesse on these videos and all that kind of stuff, that's really what he's like. He's a pretty serious person and pretty quiet, but he actually is. He really is into all that stuff, and that's the kind of guy he is. That's how he grew up. So what you see is kind of actually what you get with him. It's not a super duper persona or act. He really is kind of like that guy. But he's standing there, right? And he's standing next to this guy that I kind of vaguely recognized, but I couldn't quite figure out who it was until I got a good look at his face. And, we're playing a show and we're sitting there, rocking along. I'm playing and I look over and I'll see people in the crowd and, make eye contact or whatever. I keep looking at him for a second. And then I was like, that's Brad Gillis. That's freaking Brad Gillis from Night Ranger. And I saw Night Ranger in 1984 at Astroworld in Houston, Texas, open for Cheap Trick. And I never really listened to Night Ranger that much. I didn't have tons of Night Ranger records or anything like that. I did like some of their songs and I liked their style at the time. But they were incredible live. They were on Cheap Trick's level as far as energy level, putting on a good show and just making it fun. And they're playing the two guys are both, because Brad Gillis replaced Randy Rhoads, so he can do all that kind of stuff. The other guy was the same way. I mean, it was like a guitar clinic type deal. And so we're rocking along. And remember, we're the enemy of those kinds of bands. We're the new blood that's messing things up for them. That now the tide has changed and those types of bands are not doing well anymore. They're not getting their videos played on MTV, which was killing them. And they were going from being very popular acts that were playing, big places to dropping way down in status as far as like what they were able to accomplish in the business. So I look over and there's Brad Gillis and he's just staring at me and he looks kind of annoyed. And I don't think he was like particularly impressed, although he was watching Mark throughout the show, and Mark is an incredible guitar player. Even though it was a little different style of rock, it was still great guitar playing that no one would be able to deny. And so I know that I could tell that he was impressed with the guitar playing. And for some stupid reason, I didn't go up and introduce myself and just let him know that I had been a fan. I wish I'd done that because, like I said, there was this dumb feeling of like bands like us and bands like them didn't mix. And it was stupid because those were childhood heroes to me. I had all those types of bands posters and stuff when I was a kid. And that was exactly the age that I was when that music came out. It was aimed directly at people my age, you know. So it was stupid, all these styles. I mean, it made sense because music does come with, there's a certain lifestyle attached to a lot of music. And, you know, there was probably some corrections that needed to be made, and they've been made now. And so, you know, whatever. But this guitar was the one that I got to do some of that cool stuff with. Okay, so now I need to put 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd. I need the 3rd string. And I believe it is right here. That's right. This is the 3rd string. Okay, so the 3rd string, I'm going to go all the way to this like very outer edge of the fretboard, just to make sure, you know, that we've got plenty of string on there. And apparently with these vintage tuners, the higher strings, you might want a little more wrap on those, just in general, just because they're more likely to slip. Now, I do not have trouble with this guitar. I never have. It's just part of the magic of this guitar. When I first owned this guitar back in those Jackyl days, like I said, those are the biggest music as far as like music industry success. I feel like I've made much better music since those days, and my current music I actually believe is the best music I've ever made. But there's a certain time period when your sensibility and the things that you do line up with the industry's sensibilities. And, you know, what I do now doesn't exactly line up. And I'm 52 years old, but at that point, or 51 years old, but at that point, it did. So I had that moment. And then this was the guitar I had that moment with. So I'm just winding this baby on. It takes a little longer when the strings, you know, when you've got a little more string material. But once again, just following the usual criteria of trying to keep it low to the post. And just rolling it on there nice, smooth, and even, and making sure that the stack doesn't look like the strings are all piled up on each other. I hate to see that. Okay, now we're going to need our 2nd string. And I believe if there's only 2 strings, I'm going to pick the one that's the lightest, but I know that's the 1st string over there because I left it near the envelope. I have a tendency to make the dumbest errors, like the most simple, stupid errors, putting the wrong string on or something stupid like that. I never overestimate my ability, or I never underestimate my ability to do something stupid. Okay, so then on this one, I'm going to go like an inch out off the fretboard. So see how I'm on the top of the neck, and I'm going to go like, you know, like out to here and just cut the string way out there just to give myself, you know, plenty of extra room. And like I said, you don't have to get too worried about this. And I'm going to go under my tree here, and it's a vintage style circular tree. And I've been reading about trees a lot lately because I thought about putting an extra tree on my Flying V or putting some kind of like string retainer system on it, like a bar going across to resolve some of the rake angle issues that were giving me nut problems, like the string jumping out, the low E jumping out of the nut. And so, but I've been reading about what it does to sound, tuning stability, things like that. It increases tuning stability and rake angle potentially, but it also could change the characteristics of the note, could minimize sustain. Who knows? So I want to learn more about how string trees affect guitars, because I'm starting to think that anytime you can eliminate something like that, you should. Only use it if it's necessary, because there's other things that happen, or things that you lose when you do these types of things. Like when you use a string tree, it fixes one problem but might create another. So I'm actually kind of interested in string trees right now, but this is the vintage circular kind. Okay, so finally here we've got our high E string, and what I do with that one is the same kind of thing. I'm just going to go out over the nut a bit. Out over the headstock a bit. Another little bit of distance past where we went with the last one. Okay, so now I'm going to come out here. I'm under the tree, and I'm going to, let's see, that would be like 1. That would be like 2. I'm going to go like about to there. That seems about right. So it's just kind of a measurement process, and you really can't hurt to have a little bit extra on this E. And I saw another little trick today from a cool video. I should have noted who the guy was so I could credit him, but he maybe on iFixit, or like, I can't remember what it was called. But so I'm going to put the string end down, press it down to the neck, start turning. And the thing that he did is he got about halfway on the wind, and he went through the middle. So like he got halfway through the wind, and then he went inside of here. But I'm not going to worry about doing it because I never have that issue. But I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to do. He went down the middle about halfway through the wind, just I guess to catch it, like kind of just keep it locked down, keep it from slipping, and that should help tuning stability. But I think just doing a pretty good wrap with a little extra length on this high E should do it for this guitar. But if you have that issue, you might want to try that little tweak that he did. I'm not going to worry about it just because I've never done it before. And like I said, this guitar has just never given me any issue with tuning. It's always just been awesome as far as tuning goes. Always just been rock solid. This guitar was kind of the benchmark for a guitar being super playable, because this one, like I said, was so playable. So anyway, a couple of anecdotes: ZZ Top, Brad Gillis from Night Ranger, and my Dallas era Schecter. I'll come back tomorrow and we'll do a quick sound demo just so you can see what it sounds like, because it does sound fantastic. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.